If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Up. Hawkeye's here.
You ready?
Okay, we are watching live at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where former President Trump was speaking on the stage. There has been some kind of disturbance that clearly sets law enforcement and Secret Service into motion, immediately jumping around the former president in a protective mode. The crowd has been screaming. They are standing by. You can hear some voices there saying, "Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go?" We are looking at President Trump. This does not look good. I'm going to be honest with you. From what we can see right here, it looks like they are attempting to move him out, that he may have been injured. He is holding up his arm. He is pumping his fist, but clearly Secret Service wants to get him out of this situation. He is attempting to stand and walk on his own. He has got his hand pumping in the air. His fist is pumping in the air, but quickly they are removing him from the stage. This is happening very quickly. We are trying to ascertain what happened, but quickly we do know that immediately Secret Service was on him, jumping to protect him. Let's go to Alexis McAdams. She is there actually at the rally as President Trump is waving his fist but looks injured and is being taken out of this rally. Alexis, what can you tell us from there on site?
Well, Shannon, that was, I can't even explain how quickly that just happened. He just was talking, he was showing the illegal immigration into the United States there on the graph. And then as he was standing up on stage, we heard at least, 4 or 5 shots. Then I saw Secret Service jump into action, and I saw local and federal authorities move in. I'm going to show you here and just kind of step out of the way. You can see here people coming in with their guns drawn here, trying to figure out exactly what happened. Everybody kind of tried to get down here on the media area and then in the crowd as well as they heard those shots fired. People waited here for hours, okay? We saw people up on the stage. I'm going to have my photographer kind of pan over here. You can see that they had some snipers right up here on top of the roof who had a watch on the crowd for hours, making sure everything was okay from a security perspective. We went through lots of security when we had to come in. Not sure exactly where those shots came from at this point. We're trying to figure it out. But to hear that and then see the fall down there on that stage, I can't put into words. Talking to the people in the crowd and to me as you're trying to. We're just trying to figure out.
Okay, we've lost. Okay, Alexis McAdams there at the rally with former President Trump, where it sounds like and it looks like, from what we can tell at this moment, that there was a shooting. It sounded like multiple shots fired. It appeared that there was some injury to President Trump. We do not know the extent of it. We know that he was holding his fist in the air. He was pumping it as he was taken away by the Secret Service, hurriedly getting him into a vehicle and getting him out of there. You saw that there is an ambulance there on the scene. That is standard protocol for any rally like this, any event like this, for this very kind of situation. We know nothing about the former president's potential injuries or current condition, other than we saw him pumping his fist and holding his fist up. There is enormous security at these rallies, Secret Service, local, and many others who are involved. You can see that this crowd is stunned. Alexis McAdams is there explaining just the mood of how this would feel. You witnessed it if you are watching this rally. We are trying to find out what happened, if there is a suspect, if the suspect is in custody or taken down. It would not be surprising because there was very quick response, as there always would be in this kind of situation. This is developing very quickly. It has happened very quickly. As you can see, some law enforcement mulling around there. The crowd not moving, appearing to be stunned, and clearly they were in the midst of this, want to know what's happening as much as we are trying to get that information for you at home as well. Again, we did see the quick response as the Secret Service. You can hear them saying, are we ready to go? Are we ready to go? There's always a plan in guarding a protectee to stabilize, get that situation under control, and quickly get them a path out of there. Again, we did see what looked like some kind of injury to President Trump. He was lifted up. He appeared stunned, but he was very much conscious. He was waving his fist. He was walking on his own with the help of others that looked assisting him. But as always, the idea is to get them quickly away from that situation. We will wait to hear from any kind of medical update from those who were there with him, from Secret Service and others. But in the meantime, the thousands who had gathered there, who have waited all day, who have been in the heat, are not moving. They are, witnessing something that is the shock of a lifetime for all of us who have been witnessing what was going on there, expecting just another spirited rally as we are just days away from the Republican National Committee, the convention here in Milwaukee where we are broadcasting from, thinking that maybe we would have gotten a vice presidential pick or announcement from President Trump tonight. Instead, the headline is something much more serious. As we wait to see what has happened at this point, he is gone from that location, and we know that folks are there in a stunned silence. They have questions. Who knows if the crowd is being controlled at that point or locked down? It's possible, as law enforcement would try to make sure they have that situation fully in hand and able to see who may have been responsible for what happened there. But it happened very quickly, and we are waiting to assess what more we know. Alexis, if you can hear me, I'd like to check in with you as well to see what you were hearing there on the scene, having just witnessed this moments ago. It appears we do not have Alexis. I mean, it's always possible that they're moving reporters away from some of these areas, or that we've simply lost their connection because obviously there's a lot of communication going on there. You're looking live, though, at the crowd who has been there on a day where this battleground state of Pennsylvania has been a very hot ticket. It is in play in this election. The polls show a slight advantage to President Trump. And these folks have waited for hours, and what Alexis told us at one point was up to 100 degrees. At least that's the feels like temperature there. President Trump was just a few minutes into his speech. He had just taken the stage after a bit of a delay. He had quickly gotten to the stage. We understand there was some concern about how hot it was for people there. And so he quickly got to the stage. He had done what is normally his arrival. God bless the USA. He will spend a couple minutes working the stage, waving to the crowd as that song plays and he prepares to go to the podium. He had done that. He had begun the speech and was not long into it before. Alexis, tell us what you saw from your perspective there on the ground in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Shannon, to tell you the truth, I think everybody here is so shaken up and confused on what's even going on. We heard several gunshots and we saw some smoke in the front. So if we're going to kind of turn where we saw it, it would have been on the side of the stage here. While the former president was referencing the legal immigration numbers, kind of pointing to that graph, all of a sudden we heard several pops. And then he was on the floor. We saw the Secret Service move in. We saw people walking in with the federal authorities with their arms drawn, their guns. And then also all throughout the hours leading up to this, we saw these snipers up here on the roof there trying to survey the crowd and make sure everybody that came in was checked. And that's what we see when we go to all these events, especially when the Secret Service is involved. They check as many people as they can. People were out here for like 12 hours almost waiting, some of these people. We don't know if the person who fired these shots was in to the crowd mixed in. After former President Trump was moved off that stage and rushed away and the motorcade left, we did see some Secret Service members and possibly state police moving in, again with their guns drawn, and looking like they possibly took somebody in for questioning or custody. We couldn't see, but there was a lot of movement over there to the other side of the stage. That was after the former president was carted off. He yelled, Shannon, as you might have heard during those remarks, after they picked him up, he said, "Let me grab my shoes." He had fallen to the ground. They were trying to do everything they could to make sure that he was okay. He walked off the stage, and before he left, he pumped his fist into that crowd, and everybody started cheering, "Make America Great Again." But to come to these events, right, when you see the Secret Service, you know there's possibly this risk for the former president to come in when there's these big crowds. But they really did everything they could, it looked like, to check everyone. We went through several metal detectors. They check your backpack. They wand people down. And it takes a long time for those people to get in because they're so thorough. So at this point, not sure if this person who fired either a weapon, or it almost sounded like, it was just some type of little pops, like explosives. And then to see that smoke come up, we'll have to figure out exactly what this was that was either thrown or fired. But to see the president on the ground there, and people were crying when they were leaving and very upset.
Yeah, it is shocking and very upsetting, regardless of how you feel about President Trump. This is a moment nobody wants to witness in our country. Alexis, please stand by. We'll be continuing to return to you. But we have now turned back this video so we can again take a look at what happened. Again, it is going to be troubling to some folks. I would caution you that we're going to re-rack what happened here when President Trump had taken to the stage and was speaking. This is what happened.
Move it there. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Up. Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move it to spare.
Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready.
You ready?
Down. Down.
Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move?
Good to move.
Clear.
We're
Let's
clear.
move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Hold on. Your head is bloody.
So we got to move to the closet. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down.
Watch out.
So that is a look again at what happened just moments ago in Pennsylvania. You can see President Trump as he was leaving, he was lifting his fist. He was walking on his own. He was being assisted out by personnel, Secret Service, who kept saying to him, "We got to go, we got to go." He asked to take his shoes. They said, "We got to go." Now, Alexis, from our rewatching of this, and again, it happens very quickly. It's hard to tell exactly what's happening. There is a moment where he reaches up to his ear. Hard to tell if he was struck by something or what exactly that was about. But obviously, Alexis, he was very quickly covered by the shield that is with him at all times. He was down for a few moments as they made a plan to get him out of there. But Alexis, it's hard to tell whether he took any kind of actual physical injury, if it was the shock of it, if it was more the forcing him to the ground for his own protection. But he clearly was fully cognizant and aware and speaking and raising his fist to the cheers of folks as he left. Want to check back in with you.
Yeah, so I think one of the things to point out is that people heard pops. That's, we were saying in the beginning, like, you don't know exactly what it was that we heard. But it sounded like, possible fireworks or explosions, and it was multiple pops in a row. And the screaming you hear below, Fetzer, I'm going to have you kind of show here. These are kind of just some people that are very upset after what happened, Shannon, so that's why you hear the screaming, but they're blaming kind of what's going on with the media, saying it's the media's fault. So that's what's going on right now. But going back to exactly what we heard, so it was like that series of pops, and then something also important to point out was that smoke. So in terms of what kind of possible weapon or explosive was used, we're still trying to figure it out. The former president did either, probably fall to the ground, was pushed to the ground pretty quickly when they all popped up there, the Secret Service, and tried to jump in and protect him. We saw people swarm. I mean, this place is full of law enforcement, right? Shannon, from going to these large events like this. They check every single person when they come in. They check your bag. They check everything. They wand people down. So they were just trying to figure out exactly who was in the crowd, if it was coming from that crowd here where you can see where thousands of people were waiting here, or if it was somebody kind of on the outside, on the perimeter, kind of here, where he was able to kind of drive up in his motorcade, because there is just a retention pond in some areas back here, like the main road that the former president actually drove in on is behind that red barn. So there is some open areas in the neighborhood and the house back there. So in terms of if the person even had to be in the property, I don't think so, because you could have thrown something, like if it was a firework or some type of explosive like that, right over the fence. So I think it just really caught everybody by surprise. In terms of him grabbing his ear when he came back up, I don't know exactly what kind of injury he possibly had, but he was able to say to them, let me grab my shoes, and then tried to walk away with dignity. He tried to send that message by putting up his fist and telling the American people and these voters here in the swing state that he was out here to connect with them and talk about improving America and getting back to the White House. But this is always something you kind of think about when you're going through security and getting wanded, how they have to be so careful when it's somebody so important up on that stage and there's so many people that are in close proximity of them. They need to do their best to make sure that he's safe. And today it shows what can happen.
Yeah, Alexis, you're so right. I mean, there's never anything short of the fullest of security, and we want you to be safe there, too. So we're going to check back with you in just a minute. In the meantime, I want to bring in Fox News contributor, former NYPD inspector, Paul Morrow. Paul, gosh, I mean, we just don't know the details of exactly what's going on here, but we know the level of law enforcement that is involved every time there's a movement of a Secret Service protectee. Your thoughts as we are just starting to learn a little bit more about what happened here, Paul?
Well, first thing I would say off the top is that we should remember that in any incident like this, of the first 10 reports, 9 are going to be wrong. So we shouldn't overreact and obviously wait for the facts to come in. It does look like he stood up. He was okay to the extent that, he raised his arms. He seemed like he was strong. Does look like a graze wound to his ear or around his head. We don't know, if he had any injuries below that, but, he seemed to be fairly spry. So, there is that. In terms of securing a situation like this, look, it's hopeful at best. You're going to want people when they come in, if there are not metal detectors, which are slow and cumbersome, and sometimes a mobile metal detector is just tough to set up. So you're going to want people, but it's not perfect. There are a lot of guns out there now that can defeat a wand. People, you can't wand every inch of somebody. And if this was a firearm, and even that's not clear, but assuming it was a firearm, my understanding is there were pops heard. A lot of people don't realize what a gunshot actually sounds like. That sometimes it doesn't sound that percussive, and so it could have been a light caliber gun of some variety that somehow or other got in there that defeated a wanding, and it just, thank God it looks like it wasn't more serious.
Yeah, I mean, as we play the video here, this is what happened just moments ago so that people can see. It appears that President Trump touched his ear and quickly was taken to the ground by Secret Service, because that is what they do. Their job is to stand in the gap and to protect him. And these men and women do that every day for all of their protectees. Like you, Paul, they're folks who have chosen to serve and put yourselves in the way of harm, potentially. And it seems like, honestly, as we're rewatching this tape of what happened, that we see him appearing to be on his own, walking, gesturing to the crowd, standing up, getting out of there. It seems like the Secret Service was slowed down only by him, by trying to get him out of there. I think he wanted to reassure people that he was okay. And hopefully we will very quickly get some kind of response. But you talked about the distinct sound of something, a firearm versus something like fireworks. I mean, any of that can create panic. Can something that is short of a firearm, something like a firework, or something that would be not a gun as we understand it, also be capable of sustaining an injury? I mean, certainly causing panic here.
Certainly could cause panic. I mean, look, likely in light of the wound and in light of apparently there was some smoke spotted, that it almost certainly seems to be a firearm. But again, we don't have all the facts. We have to take a step back. I learned a long time ago in situations that are quickly developing, you have to keep your mind open and proceed cautiously and maturely. The main thing is that he appears to be okay. It would have been, if we're going to sort of do a forensic here, I think that it's unfortunate to say, but having an ambulance standing by on somebody who is, according to all the reporting, likely to be the next president would be advantageous. So, they had to force him into an SUV to get him out of there very, very quickly. There's another aspect of this, though, that I would go to, and it's just a nuance in all of this, and that is intelligence. A lot of people, you can't catch it all. Intelligence is also a very hopeful field. But I would just like to know that if the threats regarding Donald Trump have been actually monitored, because, there are a lot of people online who are acting very injudiciously, in my opinion. And I've seen some things that are very close to threats, and I would just like to think that's not really the Secret Service's bailiwick. And that's something that others should be doing in the federal government. And I'd like to think that, yeah, sure, you can secure the site. And the Secret Service people are great. They'll throw themselves. Anybody who's ever seen, the Ronald Reagan film of Reagan getting shot, know how quickly they react and how selfless they can be. But really, I hope that these things are scrubbed intelligence-wise on social media and elsewhere. And I hope there's a real effort on that, because this should not happen, man. And I hope that they're keeping an eye on it, because, frankly, I have said to people I know that I hope he's being careful, because there's a lot of rhetoric around him, and a lot of it is very, very unfortunate.
Okay, Paul, real quickly before we're going to bring in Britt Hume as well, but I want to ask you from a law enforcement perspective, what are the odds that whoever this person was, if they were within this gathering, whatever device they did have with them, I would assume that this person is in custody, or if the Secret Service assessed an immediate threat, could possibly have been taken down in the moments that this was all unfolding?
They'll get him. Whoever it was, I am going to say pretty categorically, despite my just saying that we should be cautious, that they'll get them. The division of duties in a situation like this, a lot goes to the locals. It'll be the state cops and the local cops who are involved in securing the area and the scene. They know that. They have the personnel. They will have been reacting here. The service is going to protect the body. The cops are going to do the investigation on the scene immediately. They will have flooded that area. There will be witnesses there pointing them out. I feel fairly sure that before nightfall tonight, if not already, they're going to know who did this, and that person will be in custody, and hopefully there'll be no further injury to anybody.
Paul, we so appreciate your time. If you'll stay close, I want to bring in Britt Hume with us. Britt, this is the last thing that any American wants to see. It is a moment in campaigning that you dread and hope will never come. It looks like, from what we can see in the video, that President Trump looks in good shape as he's taken out of there. But your thoughts on where we are in this moment, the tone of the conversation and the debates?
Well, my thought, Shannon, would be that it's dangerous to rely entirely on early reports. I mean, I've seen photographs now of the president. He's bleeding from the area around his ear. But I remember so vividly when Ronald Reagan was shot all those years ago. Early reports seemed to indicate that he was okay, and turned out he was not okay and needed emergency surgery to survive, which he did happily. But we're in the early stages of this now. Let's be very careful about what we conclude. First signs are that it looks like the shot did not do what it was intended to do, and that he may well be all right, but let's be very careful here.
Absolutely. That is the best caution we also always have to take. Like we said, people watching this video can see he very much wanted to telegraph to folks that he was on his feet, that he was talking, that he was motioning and gesturing. But if this turns out to be what appears to be some attempt to hurt him, to create havoc potentially at this event, Britt, you've covered these for decades. We know that there is always a risk when folks are out. Oh, Britt, if you'll hold on a second, we want to go back to Alexis. I think they're going to clear the area, but she's got, I think, an eyewitness with her. So, Alexis, let us check in with you real quickly.
Okay, so we got to do this real quick because now it's an active crime scene. So I just want to check in really quick with you. What exactly did you see?
I saw President Trump giving his remarks. I heard the noises. I looked to my left, hoping that it was a prank, and it does not appear from the reactions that it was. When I looked back, I saw the Secret Service up on the stage protecting the president and doing the best that they could, just springing into action like the selfless people that they are.
Did you see blood on his ear?
Above his ear. It did not look like he was bleeding from his ear. And everybody in the front row, we were just all started praying for him.
And you took cover. I mean, everybody up here too kind of got down. You didn't get down at all? When did you see move in pretty quickly? Did you see the police move in?
Yes. And I guess they're trying to.
Okay. It looks like we have lost Alexis there. So, Britt, I want to bring you back, and then we're going to check in with Lucas as well, who's traveling with the president. Britt, your thoughts on this moment and at least what appears to be an attempt to do real harm.
Well, I think we can all be grateful that we haven't seen something like this before. After all, we're living in a time of most incredibly embittered politics, and Donald Trump is perhaps the most controversial person in recent history to run for president and indeed to be president. So here he is again, looking like the election may be headed his way with all that we now know about President Biden. So I think it's worth keeping in mind that this is a terribly hard job for the Secret Service to do in such times. Mm-hmm. And it's probably remarkable that something like this or close to it has happened before, a testament perhaps to the effectiveness of the security protection that presidents and other prominent public officials are afforded.
Absolutely. And these are tasks that people willingly do. Every day they go out and protect their protectees, the people in their care across the political spectrum. And without regard to that, I mean, they are real heroes and that they know in a moment's notice they can be pulled into this. How do you worry, Britt, that this may change the conversation? Or do you think this will shock people into toning down a bit of the rhetoric that has been really amped up in recent weeks and months?
Shannon, you always hope when something like this happens that that's exactly what the effect will be. Well, people will stop and think and say, well, maybe we don't need to make all these poisonous comments about people in public life. And perhaps we don't. My impression, though, is, and the way things are now, that the news cycles move so fast that feelings that arise out of an event like this tend to be temporary. And while it may be true for a while that the sheer meanness of our political discourse these days will subside for a time, it would be nice if it would last a long time. I think it's too early to get our hopes up for that.
Well, Britt, thank you for dialing in. Please don't go away. You covered many a campaign, and this is a day that we hope will have an ending that is much better than it appeared it may be just moments ago. Always good to caution that we wait and see, and we are waiting a word from the Secret Service, from the Trump campaign, to find out the status and the condition of President Trump, who walked out of there and appeared on his own. I want to check in with Lucas Tomlinson. Lucas, you are traveling with the president as he is there in Delaware this weekend, not actively campaigning. Any sense of a possible statement or response from that campaign today?
Holding in Butler, Pennsylvania. The president was asked by a reporter when he exited the church about 20 minutes ago anything about the reporter asking about this quote unquote shooting, which we cannot confirm that a shooting took place, of course, in Butler. But the president said no. He was also asked about this call with Senator Schumer. We're now told that President Biden is back at his residence in Rehoboth Beach. We are waiting to see if there's any kind of statement. And one thing to just dovetail on what Britt Hume was saying, of course, anybody going to a presidential, or in this case, a former presidential rally, you would go through mags, you'd go through metal detectors before going in there. And we did see former President Trump, just going off the video that you're showing, he did stand up on his SUV with his fist raised. It does not appear that he's seriously hurt. But certainly here in Rehoboth Beach with President Biden, we are awaiting if there's any kind of statement from the White House, and certainly if there's any kind of on-camera statement from President Biden later, Shannon.
Okay, and we're getting some more still images that are giving us a little bit more of a picture of what was happening with President Trump. It looks like there may be, hard to tell, but it looks like maybe a little bit of blood on his face, but you can see him fully capable, fully in his faculties. as he raises a fist and walks out of there as the Secret Service is trying quickly to get him moving. And we will wait to find out more about the details of this. But as we continue to say, these are heroes, immediately guarding the president, immediately right there, actively doing what they do, which is pledge to protect anyone that is in their care. Lucas, please let us know. We will circle back to you if we get any further reaction there from Delaware or from within the Biden White House or campaign, as they are learning probably more than we know at this moment, but certainly in real time. I think former D.C. homicide detective Ted Williams is with us. Ted, are you there?
I'm here.
Ted, I want to get your reaction as a man who has worked in law enforcement. You know what it is like. You have a better sense than we do, probably, of everything that goes into covering protective people who are in the care of law enforcement at every level, primarily federal, when they go out and do this as a former president. Your thoughts on what we've seen this afternoon?
Well, you know, Shannon, this is one of the worst nightmares of law enforcement, specifically the Secret Service, who are charged with protecting the presidents and the former presidents of the United States. When you got a large crowd like you have here, that former President Trump was speaking before, you have all kinds of law enforcement, Shannon, around. You have state, local, and you have federal, and you have specifically the Secret Service. Now, if you see the various pictures of President Trump here on the stage and how the Secret Service moved in right away to get him off the stage, you can see about his face that there appear to be some blood. So there may very well be some injury, and we're just going to have to wait to learn more. But this is something that law enforcement plan for, but no matter how much you plan for something like this, you never can get it 100% right if there's someone hell-bent on injuring a president of the United States. If you remember many years ago, Shannon, in Laurel, Maryland, George Wallace was speaking before a crowd there, and someone in that crowd shot and injured the presidential candidate, George Wallace, at the time. There are always these incidents, and they're deeply concerning and troubling.
Absolutely. I want to read something just coming in. The former vice president, Mike Pence, who, of course, was vice president with President Trump, says this in a post moments ago. He says, Karen and I are praying for President Trump and urge every American to join us in that. I am quite sure that is what is happening at this moment for those who have witnessed what we saw there today. So, Ted, we understand. Listen, Secret Service, their priority is protecting the president and getting him out of there. But now we've got a crime scene investigation. What happens in the moments after we watch all of this play out when it comes to law enforcement and investigating what just happened there at that scene?
Well, immediately, Shannon, what happens is that area in which the shots were believed to have been fired is now a crime scene. So what law enforcement is doing is that they've roped off that area to preserve it. Now, they're also trying to talk to any and everybody in that crowd who may very well have seen something. We don't know at this stage as to whether they've taken anybody in custody. But what is happening now is that you're going to find state, local, and the FBI there processing what is now a crime scene. And so as a result of that, many of the bystanders that are there on that scene are going to be perhaps witnesses or to help law enforcement to try to determine what took place here this afternoon there.
All right, Ted, please don't go far. I want to check in with my colleague, Brett Baer, joining me on the phone now. Brett, this moment is shocking. This is not something our country ever wants to experience or see. May have lost Brett there. Let's check and see. Okay. Ted, if you're still there.
Yes.
Okay, Carl Rove. Carl, let me bring in Carl. Ted, don't go far. Carl, the same question I had for Brett there. I mean, this is a moment that you are always bracing yourself for when people of this importance and this magnitude and this, history in our country, a former president, when they take to the stage in the middle of a heated campaign, you never want to think this is going to happen. There's always got to be planning for it. But your reaction to this shocking moment? Carl, if you can hear me. All right, I'm going to come back to Ted because I think he's still with us. Ted, you talk about the investigation and the fact that we now have thousands of people who are potential witnesses to this crime scene. And what is the timeline for processing a scene like this, for identifying a suspect, for identifying what even happened? Because, we're going with the best of what we can tell from watching this event a few times over on tape.
Well, Shannon, there's really no time line or time period for processing. They're going to methodically take their time, meaning law enforcement, to process this crime scene, to talk to individuals who may have seen anything. They're going to also try to pull as much of the video feed as they possibly can to try to see what took place there in Pennsylvania this afternoon. And it's a very challenging scenario and situation that law enforcement is faced with. But they're trained to take on these kinds of situations. I would have to believe at this stage that, of course, they know quite a bit more than perhaps they're going to tell us. The big question that I want to know, and I'm sure America want to know, is do they have anybody in custody? Or is it just one person? We found, we can go back as far as John F. Kennedy, when he was shot there in Dallas. It was thought to be more than one person other than Lee Harvey Oswald, if you remember. And there was a big investigation. What they're doing right now is preserving this crime scene, trying to find out as much as they possibly can about the shooter or shooters that fired maybe a weapon there. But I can tell you, when a presidential candidate is on the stage like that, normally they have bulletproof vests on, and the Secret Service is surrounding them. And if you notice there how fast the Secret Service converged on Trump here was real immediately.
Okay, Ted, thank you very much. Don't go far. Lucas, we're hearing now from the Secret Service, getting some kind of reaction and update to what happened. What do we know?
Well, Shannon, we just received a statement from the White House which says, and I'm just going to read it, President Biden has received an initial briefing on the incident at former President Trump's rally. It's notable, Shannon, that they're not calling this a shooting right now. And the Secret Service also out with a new statement saying, quote, an incident occurred the evening of July 13th at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. The Secret Service has implemented protective measures and the former president is safe. This is now an active Secret Service investigation, and further information will be released when available. So the big takeaway from there, Shannon, is the Secret Service and the White House are not calling this a shooting right now at former President Trump's rally. They're merely calling it an incident. So we'll stay tuned on what more they have to say, Shannon.
Okay, Lucas, thank you very much. I think we've got my colleague Brett Baer with us now. Brett, that latest statement from the Secret Service saying the former president is safe. Your reaction to this moment unfolding in the middle of a very heated election campaign?
Yeah, Shannon, I'm on my way actually to a plane to Milwaukee, obviously, to start our coverage tomorrow night for the Republican convention. And this obviously a major surprise, reaching out to campaign officials and officials around the campaign. Everything we've heard so far is that there's some kind of nick on the ear. You saw the picture, the close-up of the blood on his face, but everything we're told so far is that the former president is okay at this point. You saw the Secret Service move very quickly and surround him in a matter of seconds as you look at that video. And, it's reminiscent of past presidents like President Ronald Reagan. And you've seen those images before. Fortunately, it appears that this is not that. And it's interesting that the White House put out that statement. There is an investigation ongoing, but we're getting it by the minute here. most importantly, the word we're getting initially is that the former president is okay.
Yeah, I mean, Brett, that is the most reassuring thing, especially after seeing him there. And you know, we could hear the audio as the Secret Service seemed very ready for him to get moving. And he's saying, let me get my shoes on, pumping his fist for the crowd, trying to indicate it seemed like he was walking off on his own. They were shuffling him out of there and obviously creating a protective cordon around him. So he may have been completely fine to walk, and maybe it appeared a little bit slowed down simply by their efforts to protect him, surround him, and get him down those stairs and get him out of there. We do know that President Biden has been briefed. As you said, I mean, we're here in Milwaukee. This is just a couple of days before they officially begin their kickoff here. What do you think may be the impact of this? Because we have just felt that this country is so divided. And now we're looking at a moment which to everyone, every decent person in this country is something they never want to see in any political rally.
This is a moment where our country is in a really precarious position. You know, you have a Democratic Party that is, in turmoil. The president's saying he's sticking it out and he's going to run. However, there's a lot of talk about whether he is or whether he isn't. But this incident is a big moment, and we have to find out all the details and what exactly happened and where those shots came from or what they were. We don't have a lot of details on that, but it just adds to this tumult that we are seeing in this country as we head towards the conventions, the Republican convention first, and hopefully, it's going to be peaceful. There will be increased security, guaranteed, Shannon, with all that we're seeing so far.
Brett, I want to read this just coming in. Brooks Singman from us, one of our colleagues here at Fox, has this urgent statement from the Trump campaign saying President Trump thanks law enforcement and first responders for their quick action during this heinous act. He is fine and is being checked out at a local medical facility. More details will follow. So, Brett, again, another assurance, the first coming from Secret Service and now from the Trump campaign itself, that it sounds like he is doing well. And whatever the intentions were of whatever happened there at the rally, it sounds like he's going to be just fine. And probably, I would guess, you knowing him, I knowing him, as many folks know him, probably more fired up than ever to get back out there on the campaign trail.
Yeah, and I think that just the indication that he wanted to get up and raise his fist after that moment, I think was an image he wanted to portray. I think there's a lot to know where things are coming from.
Absolutely. Brett, thank you very much. Safe travels. We will see you here very shortly in Milwaukee. Excuse me. I want to make sure that we get to nationally syndicated political reporter Selena Zito. She is a Pennsylvanian. She is somebody who has a Pennsylvanian, I guess would be the right term. She covers this state border to border, knows it inside and out. You were there at the rally, Selena. Can you tell us what you witnessed?
Yeah, so I was here at the rally. Been here since 12 o'clock this afternoon. I had actually met with the president for a couple minutes before he went out on the stage. He was in great spirits. We were to do an interview after the rally. I was in the buffer, so the buffer zone is the area where it's like this narrow area that's right along where the president stands. And as I was and with other photographers, I heard something coming out sort of from the left-hand side, and you saw the president go down, and immediately what I could hear him say was, let me get my shoes. He got right back up. I could see him raise his fist. And then the Secret Service and military, law enforcement sort of surrounded him. It wasn't to hold him up, but it was to protect him because no one knew where the shooter was at that point, to walk him off of the stage and into his motorcade.
Yeah, and Selena, we're hearing it. You're there in person. We're hearing it, rewatching this tape over and over again. What did it sound like to you? We've had reports of a puff of smoke or puffs of smoke. Could you see anything about a person? You mentioned the direction where this was coming from. Any of those details?
Well, not really, because the sun was in my eye, so I couldn't see. I could tell the direction it was coming from, but I couldn't see the person. And then the advanced man laid on top of me and to make sure I was okay. So that's what that experience was like. But as a gunner, I know what that sound is like, so I knew immediately it was a gun.
Okay, so for your assessment, there being on the ground, it wasn't a firework or something like that. In your hearing of it, it did sound like a firearm.
Oh, yes, definitely. No doubt about it.
Okay, well, we know that they have tried to clear folks from there. There's obviously a crime scene investigation that's going on there. Selena, we are glad you're safe. Please stay with us. I want to check back in with Britt Hume as we're learning a little bit more. Britt, we've now got statements from the Secret Service and also from the Trump campaign that the former president is safe. That is excellent news. That is the best possible news. It doesn't take away from the shock and the distress of whatever was attempted there. You heard Selena Zito. She is now confident, as a gun owner herself and somebody who was an eyewitness, that this was a firearm.
I don't think there's been much doubt about that, Shannon. It's completely consistent with the video that we've seen, particularly with that remarkable shot we saw where the president flinched and raised his hand to the right side of his head to his ear. And that's consistent with the video we've seen of the blood streaming from that area of his ear and face. I think we can now trust the statements that are being made to say that he's okay. All the video evidence we can see, including this picture that was on the screen just moments ago of him raising his fist and being carried away by the Secret Service group, confirms that. So I think this looks like something that could have been much worse than it is at the moment. Than it's turned out to be, and we can all be very grateful for that indeed, and very grateful indeed as well for the Secret Service. They don't mess around, as you could see. The president was trying to, stand up, raise his fist, signal to the crowd that he was okay, and they were completely preoccupied with the job of getting him off that stage and into the motor vehicle that took him away.
Exactly. And we are now getting a reaction. We know that President Biden has been briefed. We're seeing statements from a number of people across the political spectrum. We just have one now from Governor Kathy Hochul out of New York, a Democrat. Clearly, she says any violence against a fellow American is disgusting and unacceptable. We must express political disagreements peacefully, civilly, and respectfully. I am praying for the safety and health of former President Trump and all those who are attending this event in Pennsylvania. And Britt, we talked about, maybe does this actually take the temperature down because people realize just how overheated things have gotten?
Well, it's certainly something to hope for, Shannon. We're in the heat of a intensely competitive presidential campaign in which, we've learned things that we hope we wouldn't ever find out about our current president. We've now seen an attempt on the life of our past president and possible future presidents. So these are certainly perilous times in our nation's history. And these pictures we see now of the president, his face covered in part with blood, are going to live with us for a long time.
Certainly are. We're now hearing also from the top Democrat over on the House side, Hakeem Jeffries, saying my thoughts and prayers are with former President Trump. I am thankful for the decisive law enforcement response. America is a democracy. Political violence of any kind is never acceptable. I want to bring in former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker. Nicole, you've had a chance to see this as this plays out. You and your fellow brothers and sisters in uniform who do this by choice and protect folks and jump into the line of fire. Your reaction to what you've seen and what we know so far?
Well, first of all, my due respect goes out to the United States Secret Service. They are the heroes today. Secret Service, that is their job. They put their lives on the line. You saw how they rallied around President Trump immediately in the aftermath, and they were willing to take a bullet for him. And that is what Secret Service agents do. And, we have